Welcome to another episode of the Executive Exclusive. I'm your County Executive, Julie Giordano, and with me, as always, is my sidekick, Bunky Luffman, our Director of Administration. So, Bunky, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's great to be here.
We had a rough week, haven't we, Bunk?
Yeah.
Obviously, we know that there are a lot of things that we're going to talk about today, and there were a lot of things that happened at the council meeting. We could probably spend hours probably dissecting everything that has happened, but we're going to try to get through the most important things that happened at the council meeting. We're going to recap our budget meeting yesterday, and then kind of talk a little bit about some futuristic things. So starting off with the council meeting, I think the first contentious thing was the collective bargaining agreement with our FOP. And just so everybody knows, we'll give you a little brief history of the CBA. So the collective bargaining agreement was something that our deputies put on the ballot, got 10,000 signatures, and were able to be successful and have it voted on by the people of Wacomico County that we should have a collective bargaining agreement and that the FOP would unionize. Because of that, we do negotiations with them every 2 years, every 3 years, just depending on what the contract entails. The contract that we put forward is a 2-year contract that has a lot of great stuff in it, but we were really happy about it. We had really good faith negotiations going on. We had been negotiating for about 5 months, and we put it forward to the council, and unfortunately, in a very unpopular decision, the council decided to vote the CBA down. Do you want to talk a little bit about the council's concerns with the CBA or what they claimed the concerns were?
Well, yeah, and I want to give a little background too. So one of the things, and we've heard from different law enforcement people that they like this approach. One of the things that how you approached this was, let's have sort of casual meeting with the FOP. What is it you'd like in this contract? And we can sort of run preliminary to see what we can do. We had several of those. And the key was we wanted to enter these negotiations not in a sort of one side versus the other, but how can we collaboratively come up with a collective bargaining agreement that works for the police, works for, and the taxpayers of Wacomico County. So that was sort of the thing. And we did not have neither side had attorneys in there because we thought that would, then you have attorneys whispering in your ears, that kind of thing. So we came up with sort of a non-binding agreement where, okay, we think we can do this, okay, we're okay with that. And then we sent it to the attorneys, and then we allowed the attorneys to sort of do their thing, like they are. We have a labor attorney. They have their attorney. They can hash out the fine details and come up with the agreement.
And I don't want to cut you off, but the reason that we did that is because we were saving taxpayer dollars. Yes. Those attorneys are expensive, and so that was our goal, was to save taxpayer dollars. We have a great working relationship with the FOP and the sheriff's office, so why not take advantage of that and save some tax money? Sorry, but go ahead. I just want to throw that in there.
I don't know what the FOP pays their attorney. I believe we pay ours about $400 an hour. So you can imagine over several meetings that decision alone by you saved thousands, and the FOP going along with it, saved thousands of dollars of taxpayer money. So that was a very fiscally conservative idea. And also, we said in the first meeting, look, nothing will be agreed upon until the attorneys get this and the attorneys look at it and hash it out. Let's form like a sketch work of what this looks like without us being bound to it or you being bound to it. Well, the attorneys, that's going to be their job. So it wasn't like we went in there, agreed to a bunch of things that might be good, might not be good. The sheriff might like them, they might not like them, but we sort of come up with concepts, and then it went on, and it worked. That process worked. The FOP voted for it, not unanimously, but overwhelmingly. The sheriff's office was okay with it. So every leg of the stool except the council agreed with it, and unfortunately, they voted it down. We had supplied them, data that they needed. The county attorney, Paul Wilbur, had emailed them and said, if you have any questions on this, please direct them, to me, the director of administration, so that I would have time to do it. Unfortunately, they did not. We didn't get those. I didn't get those questions. I didn't get that question on. We want this data saying this specific thing. So we gave them what we thought was all the data they needed. They got the actuarial data on May 13th, which was 8 days before. Unfortunately, a couple council people said that we gave it to them on the 11th hour. 8 days is not the 11th hour. It was a one-page
Right.
document. This was not like reading Gone with the Wind in 8 days,
Right.
which I did in high school. But but
You had to get it done quick.
oh, I
The due
did.
date was approaching.
1,036 pages. I still
Woo.
remember it. But this was a one-page document. And look, actuaries can be complex. They can be a little difficult to understand. My understanding is to actually be an actuary is a very tough thing, the series of tests they have to do. So I understand that it's complex. But we gave them 8 days, and in those 8 days, they were free to email me. If they needed a meeting with us in finance, we would have arranged it just to sort of, to speak to any fears or questions they had. Unfortunately, 0 of them took us up on that offer. So we get there the day of, and they have an issue with the data, which again we had we had no idea they had an issue with the data.
Yeah, and so if you didn't watch the council meeting, there were several items that we put in this collective bargaining agreement, but the most controversial topic was the COLA in retirement. So we were offering a 2.5% COLA for our deputies in retirement, which is something that they have wanted since 2006. And we provided actuarial data, and we did not provide the actual pieces of paper from CBIZ to the council. That is personnel information. But what our director of finance did was take that actuarial data and then apply the 2.5% over what it would look like, in 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, 10 years, and showed that it is a fiscally financially able thing to do. We're able to do it. I don't even know if that's like a financially, I don't want to say smart thing to
Tenable.
do, but yeah, tenable, yeah, capable, thing of doing it, and so if they had issues with the data or didn't understand really what that email meant, that was the time, to email us and say, hey, could you just do a little better of explanation? Could you walk me through this? Even just a quick phone call would have been fine. And they didn't do any of that. And then they claimed that the data wasn't from CBIZ. And I literally stated in the email that they got, hey, this is the actuarial data from CBIZ. So they had it 8 days before. And what that tells me is one of two things. They didn't open the email. They didn't even bother to read the email. They just clicked open maybe the Excel spreadsheet and you said, well, I don't even understand it, or whether they looked at it or not, I have no idea. But to me, that's really frustrating. And I know that there's one councilman in particular that literally looked at it that day. No, I blame that person because they should have looked at it way beforehand. But neither here nor there. We're not sure where we are right now. Our lawyers have spoken. There's talk about the FOP filing for impasse, which we don't want to do, but I wouldn't blame them, honestly. So it was, I'm going to be honest with you, it was a really sad day for law enforcement. The council gave them a proclamation for recognizing Police Week at the beginning and then voted down a contract. And the thing that was so disheartening was there was about, 10 to 15 deputies and command staff there. And they were just devastated. They just looked deflated. And they're so frustrated by this council because they keep being told that they're pro-law enforcement and that they care about them. If you care, then you at least do the courtesy of finding out and not just trying to, right in the meeting, trying to make us or Cheryl, who's our attorney, look bad because they ended up looking bad. We didn't get this. Yes, you did. Well, we got it in the 11th hour. No, you didn't. You had 8 days to analyze a one-page financial document. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm hoping that this will be resolved sooner than later. And so we'll just have to see. But that's where we are on our CBA. Did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, and one of my concerns is if this goes to arbitration or impasse and what have you, and I hesitate to say this, but it's just the reality that the citizens need to know. The FOP has to bargain for the deputies. They're not going to ask for less than was in this contract.
Right.
So there's literally, I don't believe, any upside for the taxpayers of Wycomico County for this to go to arbitration. Because, like I said, they're not going to accept less. And I doubt an arbitrator is going to be, we're going to be able to convince them to give them less than what's in this proposal.
Right. So the contract itself is going to cost us more money. And going to the arbitrator, do you know how expensive that is?
And we're
it's a
gonna
lot.
And we're going to have more legal fees.
Yes. So we're really trying to avoid that. And so I talked with the attorney today, our attorney today. And so we're just going to kind of wait and see. So she's waiting on a couple of things from the council. So we'll see what happens. So it's kind of a waiting game. So to all our law enforcement out there, I apologize. I'm sorry. We felt that we did the best that we could. We sat down with you. We had very personal, great conversations back and forth, and thought the negotiation went really well. Presented a really great CBA for you guys, and unfortunately, we're just kind of in this, between a rock and a hard place right this moment. So it's just kind of wait and see.
Yeah. And I do want to say that Cheryl Brown, the labor attorney, has done an excellent job, and I'm really glad that we hired her, and I really appreciate what she's done so far, and I know, she'll help us going forward with this as well. And just say that, to all our law enforcement people and members of the FOP, we really appreciate you, and we hope that this doesn't, we get that it's disappointing, but I hope this doesn't discourage you from, working here, continuing to work for us and the citizens of Wicomico County, because you really are appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on, I wish I could say it got better for public safety in our county, but it did not. So our fire departments. So there has been a lot of false misinformation, blatant lies that have been told to our fire companies. And I think, and I hate to be so harsh about it, but I think some of that, some of those falsehoods have been sort of exposed at this point in time. And what was really frustrating is we knew that our budget was going to be a little tight, and we needed, though, to make sure we were going to take care of our fire departments. So what I had proposed was we have a contingency account, and it has $1.3 million in it for fiscal year 24. That money is going to, for lack of a better term, expire June 30th. It just gets absorbed back into our general fund, for people to understand this. So I wanted to give our volunteer fire companies some of that money. So my suggestion to the council was, let's give each one of our fire companies $75,000, and we'll use our contingency money. What I wanted the fire departments to do was use it for capital things. And they could honestly, there really wasn't any restriction on it. We just said, don't pay your electric bill, don't pay your EMS people, but you can buy anything you need for your fire company. It could be for a fire truck, it could be for renovations, anything you need it for. Just that's what that money's for. And the council voted that down. They voted it down. And it's really disheartening, because that money could have been, that check could have been cut today. This was yesterday or 2 days ago. That check could have been cut this week for our fire companies. And I know all of them could use it. And so it was just really disheartening, in that aspect. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so these capital expenses, so they wouldn't be paying salary, workers' comp, or an ongoing expense like electric, like you said, or heat or air or anything like that. However, fire equipment, just like everything else over the past few years, has skyrocketed. Inflation has been really bad. A fire truck today is far more expensive than it was 5 or certainly 10 years ago. Ambulances, same thing. But so this $75,000, they could have put toward that. They could have put toward upgrading or upgrading buildings, or if there's any deferred maintenance on buildings or anything like that, they would have been able to do it. Capital equipment type stuff. So it was really a flexible way that they could use this money, just not ongoing expenses. And the reason we did that is because we know, as tight as this budget was this year, we have some uncertainty about next year. I know the state's budget is going to be super tight, and so we don't know what the state's going to do with that. Whether they're going to cut maybe some of our funding on local stuff that they help us with or not. So we have to be really careful. So we thought one-time capital is the way to go versus increasing what we give them on operating, because even though we could potentially give them more in operating and cut back next year, operating, you really want to give them a predictable number so that they don't hire more people or do something like that, and then we give them $75,000 extra this year, and then next year we're like, hey, we're sorry, we don't have an extra 75 this year, but they've now hired an additional person or done something like that that's an ongoing cost. So operating, you always want, to the extent you can, make it predictable. So that's why we chose capital versus operating.
Yeah. And anyway, so we thought we were doing a good thing, and it was a way to get them money a little quicker, not having to wait till July 1st. But unfortunately, it was voted down. And then, which is going to lead me, I know there's like a big elephant in the room, which we will talk about, don't worry, but I just want to kind of lead that into our budget meeting yesterday. So we had a budget meeting yesterday that had several departments, education, sheriff's office, corrections, and you can watch that on PAC 14. But I really want to focus on the council did a budget recap, and that's what I wanted to kind of bring up here. So they presented we'll just call it their first round of cuts. Nothing is solidified. And then what the council does is they kind of, in one column, put all of the cuts, and then in the right-hand column, they put what their additions would be. Now, we know that the council can't add, but it's their suggestion. And one thing that I found kind of interesting was that from the cut side, they wanted to take some of that money and then they wanted to give it to the volunteer companies. And what was interesting is that they proposed $825,000, which is $75,000 each, which is interesting because that's literally the same exact thing that I offered. So it's frustrating because I don't know if that was the best way to get them the 75. I'm going to say it wasn't. In my opinion, it's not. They can get the 75,000 now. We're not cutting from any other department to do that. And to me, and I'm not saying that this is done this way, but to me, that's like just vindictive. It was done to make us look bad, like we weren't trying to help out our volunteer fire companies. And then for them to be the saviors and give to the volunteer companies. But like it was 2 days apart or a day apart, We're going to not give them the 825,000, but now we're going to cut from somewhere else and give them the 825,000. I'm sorry, I was frustrated and I was really trying to understand it. And you'll hear me kind of have a conversation in the budget recap meeting if you decide to watch it on PAC 14. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, and to pick up what I was just saying, so in the other part, they don't get it this fiscal year. It also switches from capital to operating, which is something we were trying to avoid because, again, we don't know what next year's budget is going to be. We don't know, property tax probably about the same. We don't know what income tax is going to do. Personal property tax we're probably going to have to lower that, which we might talk about a little later. So next year's budget is going to be tough. And again, we thought it was the best course, the financially correct course to do this capital. It appears what they want to do is operating, which again, if the fire departments then go out and increase their operating expense to absorb this whole 75,000, then are we now raising the level of operating we're going to have to give them every year, and in next year in a super tight budget, are we even going to be able to do it? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that people felt like because we didn't offer it in the budget that we didn't support our fire companies, and that wasn't the case at all.
Yeah.
We had a plan the entire time, and for 2 council members to go in front of the fire departments and say, she doesn't support you, look at what she did to the budget, is so disheartening. And so, I'm sorry, I just found it vindictive and it was a personal attack. And to me, you have taken an entity of public safety in this county and turned it into a political pawn.
Yeah,
and that is really unfortunate. And I don't even know what else to say about it, but the good news, the silver lining is no matter what, the fire companies are getting the additional funding that both of us wanted. I just feel like we just disagreed on how that funding was going to happen. They were more so thinking of the now. How can we look like the heroes now? We were looking at how can we make sure we're not the bad guys later on next year and still be able to support our fire companies. So we were looking more at a projection of next year as opposed to the here and now, and how, so.
And growing up in Delmar, of course, we didn't have career fire, and there's nothing wrong with career fire, but with a volunteer fire department, the people who volunteer for our fire departments work full time, and then still have to get their hours in, get all their training, and the state, of course, continually mandates more and more training. It seems like the equipment, which is a good thing, it's always to a higher and higher standard, which is good. It protects them more, but it's also at a cost. It's super expensive. We talk, the fire trucks and the apparatus have all went up. But these people work in our communities every day, full-time jobs, husbands, wives, children, and they often are the same people who volunteer for our civic organizations. If you're a member of a civic organization, they're probably people who work in fire, and the ladies auxiliary do an amazing job at the different fire companies and really, really help out a lot, and I'm really appreciative of them. But these are the backbone of our community, our volunteer fire and the ladies auxiliary. So again, like I said, with our police, we just really appreciate all the volunteer firemen and women and the people who save lives with EMTs and paramedics. In fact, the Delmar Fire Department saved my sister's life a few years ago. And I'm just incredibly thankful for them and their sacrifice, because this is, it's a volunteer thing, but it's also they're putting their life on the line in a volunteer role, and they're just incredible people.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And so we'll see how that goes. I mean, nothing's finalized yet, with the budget. We just had our first preliminary discussion about the recap. We have another meeting coming up next week, so we'll see kind of where that goes. So, and then, all right, we'll go to the elephant in the room. So last week, the council, there was some rumor, so how did this sort of start off? So the agenda came out that they were going to talk about some changes to the charter. And we were kind of hoping it wasn't what it was, but then we found out that it was. That the council has taken it upon themselves to potentially put on the ballot to remove the executive branch of government from our charter. So they would like to revert back to the council form of government without an executive. And their reasons had to do with, and we'll deal with these reasons as, we'll kind of explain these reasons, but the first one was the financial cost. And then the other was the tension that has been, that has been brewing. And I want, first and foremost, and Bunky, I'm going to have you do this, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but could you please explain, because I think it's not great coming from me because I am the executive, but could you please explain how important an executive is to a county? And this is coming from someone who has worked in state government. You worked for Governor Hogan. You know governments inside and out. And so if you could explain to our audience why it's important that Wacomico County has an executive.
Well, there are only 9 county executives in the state. And when a county executive goes before a committee or, has a meeting with a governor or a congressman or a member of the U.S. Senate, it's really powerful to be able to talk to one person from the government, a central pinpoint figure, and sort of, who can present you, with ideas, requests, those sorts of things. And there's a level of respect that county executives, bipartisan, across the aisle, whether it's a county executive, also Brooks, who's running for U.S. Senate, or Johnny O, who's the county executive in Baltimore. I can't pronounce his last name, or I would. So it doesn't matter, and those two are both different party than us, but it doesn't matter. There is a level of respect given to county executives, and that is incredibly important and useful in getting money back. This year during the General Assembly's budget negotiations, we got a call in our office about an opportunity, and you need to be able to answer the question like that. Hey, there's $1.1 million that came up. Is there anywhere you could use this, that, maybe a quality of life thing, park something? Yes, this is what we can do. Whereas a legislative body by design has to be deliberative. If it's 7 like we have, you need 4 votes. If it, and they only meet twice a month. So there are things that have to be done like that. Sometimes, maybe it's not daily, but you need an immediate answer. A real-time thing. When our ferries unfortunately occasionally break down, and we need to do emergency repairs like that. They can call the executive's office, and you can absolutely do it. Mm-hmm. We don't, no one has to track down, those people. And with the cost side, so the executive office, our budget's about $300,000, our proposed budget, and actually it's going to be less because they cut a position that's not filled. So it's about $300,000 less than what the council is. And keep in mind, our office runs the day-to-day affairs of the county.
Right.
So it's you, myself, Deputy Leitzel, Deputy Administrator Leitzel, and we have 2 office associates who have been there a long time, and Lisa and AK are wonderful. So that's 5 of us. And day to day, we do the day-to-day operations of the whole county. And our budget is still less than the county council. And
Who is part-time, 2 days a month.
they have 3 full-time employees. They have a council administrator. They have an office associate. Sorry, I don't know the exact title. And then the internal auditor falls under them. So even with fewer employees, they have a larger budget. Oh, they also exercise their option to have a council attorney, which they don't have to have because the county attorney serves both sides of government. But they did that. They're allowed to do it, but it comes at a cost. So if we're talking cost, that's an option that they exercise.
Well, and really quick, one of the things that they talked about was the raise in our budget. So our budgets went up. Everybody's budget went up. Yes. Everybody's budget's gone up. Theirs went up 36%. Nobody says anything about it, with no additional employees. Ours went up 22%, and we had an additional employee that we wanted to bring in for succession planning. They ended up cutting that position, which is fine. Our ladies are doing great. But to sit there and criticize a branch of government to say that they raised this and they raised that, meanwhile, their budget is up 36%, it's a little hypocritical. And I feel like a lot of times, when it comes to the budget, every other department is put on blast or put in the spotlight, because they can have those conversations, but nobody ever talks about their budget. And so I'm going to talk about it. They raised it 36% with no additional employees, and to sit there and badmouth at another branch of government, I have a hard time with that.
Well, and here's the other thing: our budget has a check and balance. So yesterday they struck $14,000 from our budget proposal. It's not in stone yet. However, we don't have that check and balance. We are not allowed to strike anything from their budget. In fact, they say this is our budget, and that's their budget, and we have no power over it. And, so there's no check and balance on their budget. And maybe there shouldn't be. I don't know. But they have. So that's one of those things where there's supposed to be sort of a balanced government on the executive and legislative side. And in this aspect, it is not balanced because they can sort of strike stuff from our budget as they looks like they're going to do, but there's no reciprocation there.
Well, and the other thing that's kind of frustrating to me is that if you look at the way that their new proposed charter looks, it's really just removing the executive, even though it's the executive branch, but it's really just the executive position. There's still going to be a county administrator. There's still going to be a deputy county administrator, and there's still going to be 2 office associates. So you're literally striking the one elected position that people can hold accountable by a vote. And so you're saving $107,000. And at the end of the day, I know it's hard because I am the executive. I feel that what we have brought to this county more than makes up $107,000. Just one developer that we brought in, Ed St. John, has an economic impact of over $500,000. That's just one. That's one, thing that we have brought to the county. And so I'm really frustrated about it because as well as I do, this is all personal, because what they have allowed in their council meetings is this bad-mouthing at the podium, people bad-mouthing the executive, saying personal attacks against me, but then to say, but it's not personal. Of course it's personal. It's a personal thing, and when you are, again, trying to do something that is going to change this fabric of government, and it's personal, and it's council-driven, not by the people-driven, I don't see how that's good legislation. I really don't. So it looks like there is going to be a meeting on June 4th, so there's a public hearing on this if you want to come out June 4th. It's either going to be at council chambers. We've heard some rumors it might be at the Civic Center. Come out and voice your opinion on this. There are good reasons to have an executive, whether it's me or not. And the people of this county voted for that in 2006. The people of this county do not want an unelected bureaucrat running the county. They don't. They absolutely do not. They want somebody that answers to them because the power is with the people. And I keep hearing that, we're giving the power back to the people. No, you're not. You're putting something on the ballot that is literally going to strip the power from every single person in this county. And I know that our county citizens are smarter than that to understand that. So,
to me, and they're allowed, if they have 5 votes, they're allowed to put it to the ballot directly from the council. But to me, if this is an undertaking someone wanted to do, whether on council or not, the way to do it would be the other option, which is you collect 10,000 signatures and get it on the ballot. And what that does, even though it's hard work, but what that does is it allows you to know you have a base of support for what you want to do. And I don't think that they have a base of support on this. I don't think if they put it on the ballot, it'd be successful.
I don't think so either.
But I do want to go back to a couple things that we've accomplished in the last 18 months. You know, buying the Verizon building, which we're going to move the health department to, which is not only great because they're getting out of sort of an aging building into a new facility, and it will help people have more access, I think, to the health department. And the health department's really excited about it. Of course, the Wicomico County Department of Health is a state agency. And I need to say that because a lot of people will call our office with a septic issue and they're like, well, this is Wicomico County. No, that's just in the title.
Right.
They are a state agency.
Yes.
However, we do as a county have to provide them with a building to work in. The CAC building was just voted to be approved. And the reason I bring those two things up specifically is, so I know there's a concern with parking in downtown Salisbury. The CAC building conveys with 32 spots, so we're going to pull 32 people out, or a number of people, if not all 32, out of the parking garage, which will free up some of those spots. When we move our health department over that work in Hurdle, there's going to be more spots opened up in the parking garage, because I don't think that there is a parking issue in the parking garage at night and when people come, go to restaurants, stuff like that. There is, though, sometimes in the morning when there is a big jury. We've heard from our employees that, hey, I couldn't find a parking space or the garage, or it took me a long time to find a parking space. When there's those big juries, the parking garage does fill up. So this will sort of ease the parking issue as Salisbury works through their master plan and whether they're going to build another parking garage or whatever they're going to do. And also eases, once we move the library over to the War Museum, that will ease some parking as well. But also, this also will take sort of a pinch point, I feel like the city of Salisbury's at with parking. It helps ease some of that before they get ahead of them getting more parking options online.
Right. So just to kind of recap what Bunk said, so we're going to have a new library at the Ward Museum, which is really exciting. We're going to have a new health department building, and we're going to have a new CAC building. And so those are just three things. If we talk about the legislation that we have put forward, the very thing that we did and what we said we were going to do is move forward with that water and sewer plan, and we passed the sanitary district bill, which allows us to have the sanitary district. We're working on the legislation for the commission. We've got preliminary engineering reports. We are moving forward. And I'm going to be very honest, if you are a homeowner that has a potential septic issue or a future septic issue, or if you're a realtor that has had trouble with septic, I feel for you, because if the executive government goes away, I'm sorry, I really do think that plan is halted, because we work on water and sewer weekly. I mean, multiple days a week we're working on water and sewer stuff. Meetings, or, trying to move forward with this or figuring this out, or meeting with the health department, or trying to, do GIS mapping, or, looking at how we're going to put this plan in motion. I'm sorry, I don't see how 7 part-time people and 1 county administrator are going to be able to handle that. That is a massive, massive undertaking. I almost feel we're understaffed at this point in time, and you have a full-time executive director and deputy director working on it, plus Amanda Pollock, who we've contracted out. So we have the sanitary, and then we just passed House Bill 1340, and the governor signed it, which was so exciting for us, changing the landscape of how we do business here in Wicomico County, where our business owners who are bar and restaurant owners are able to purchase their spirits from any distributor of their choice. They can still go to the dispensary. Our dispensary system is still in place. For consumers like me and you, nothing changes, but for our restaurant owners, we opened that up. And the reason I pointed that one out is we had the governor sign that, and it changed our landscape forever. And how many council people came up?
Yeah, no council people testified
0
on the bill.
Nobody testified on the bill. Nobody came up for the bill signing. And those are the important things. And I know they seem trivial, but they're not. The testimony is super important. And I know the bill signing seems very ceremonial, but it's a sign of respect. It's a way to say thank you. Thank you for putting this forward to our delegation, and thank you to the governor, for signing this into law. And we didn't have any, and talking about a couple of other things. We have great working relationships with our senators. We have gone to DC, and our congressman, Andy Harris. We work with these guys all the time and stay in contact with their office. We've gone to DC numerous times. This is nothing against the council. Not one council member has ever gone with us to DC to talk about the needs of the shore. And I try to explain to people too, I don't care who the executive is, but they are representing not just Wacomico County. They represent Dorchester, they represent Somerset, and they represent Worcester, and of course, Wacomico County. And not so much that they don't have representation, but as the executive, we go as the lower shore. We go as a unified front, a regional approach, which makes it that much stronger. The values that we have here on the shore are shared by people in Dorchester and are shared by people in Worcester and are shared by people in Somerset. And that's why our delegation covers those areas. You know, if you think about Mary Beth Carrozza, she's in two. Is she in Somerset as well?
Yeah.
So three counties of that. You know, Tom Hutchinson, he's up and down, you know, the midshore down to the lower shore. So and that's just to name a few, but we have to, you know, they represent us, and I kind of come forward, and our office represents us holistically. Is a lot of it Wacomico County? Of course, you know, but we do take that regional approach.
Yeah, and anything we can do, and we've told, you know, elected officials on the county and in the delegation, anything we can do to support our surrounding counties, we absolutely, you know, as long as we agree with it, and so far we've agreed with everything, we absolutely, if we're having a meeting with the governor and, you know, Somerset has something in front of the governor and we can do a nudge, we absolutely will do that, because it's, you know, rising tide rises all ships. And the other thing that you sort of instituted that we did not have when I was on town council in Delmar are quarterly meetings with our 8 municipalities. That did not exist when I was deputy mayor or on the Delmar council. And so that's something I think is really good. And if there's any way that we can work with our 8 municipalities, we want to do it to the extent we can. And they're a co-equal but they're a co-equal government. Municipalities control, so we want to work with them without sort of as a county stepping on their toes. And that's what we try to do, is have appropriate, good, professional working relationship with all 8.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are just a couple of things. You know, we attend a lot of meetings, we attend a lot of events. We really try to be all over the place and showing how much we not only just love this county, but we respect the people in it. We want to be a part of it. We want to immerse ourselves into the experience of what is Wacomico County. And, you know, it's frustrating. You know, I feel that we go to work and work hard every single day. And to have 7 people, and I hate to include one council member in particular, most of you probably know, but it's a collaborative thing here right now. But to have 7 people sort of say you're not needed, to say that, you know, well, because there's controversy, and I'm going to jump to that controversy thing, you know, besides the fact of all the things that we do. There is controversy in every government. There's controversy in every government. Look at the federal level. Okay, there's not much more controversy between Republicans and Democrats, and we have a presidential election coming up. Do you think one person, I don't care how far left they are or how far right they are, not one person has ever said, let's get rid of the President of the United States? If you look at the state level, okay, there are people who love Governor Westmore, there are people that are not happy with Governor Westmore, but not one of those people have ever said, let's get rid of the governor. You know, and I'm just going to say this. There was a quote that was done by President Cannon on WMDT, and he said, there have been previous councils that have not gotten along with previous executives. Well, I'm going to tell you this, and I know that most people know this. There have been 4 different county executives that have had trouble getting along with the council, and there are 2 common denominators on that council, and I know you all know who they are. And I hate to call it out like this, but I'm calling a spade a spade. There are common denominators in the controversy, and it's not from the executive side. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if people 1,000% support me, but there's no one that can say that we don't work hard every single day and that we're out there trying to do the best thing for Wacomico County that we think is best and what the people have asked of us. And if anybody is shocked or concerned about the things that we've accomplished, I don't know why, because these were my campaign promises. And the liquor was the very last thing. We're still working on some things with that, but the liquor was the last thing. And I have fulfilled every single campaign promise that I have given to the people who elected me. And so, again, to have 7 people have such a personal issue with me and to say it's not personal, but we're going to put it on the ballot to get rid of you, I don't know what to say.
And there's a missed opportunity here. So the county council did approve and supported the liquor bill. And this was not only, a promise of yours, but also, for several different council people. Some have, left elected office that have wanted this for a while, but it was accomplished, now. And it was a goal of Council President Cannon. And I think it shows that when the council and the executive work together, this was something Wayne Strasburg told me he wrote a paper on in 2008 as county administrator. So 16 years ago. But when we have the council and the executive pulling in the same direction, we can do something like repeal a monopoly that some people have wanted to repeal for almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
We can do that. So what needs to happen is the council and us need to figure out where are areas we can agree, and let's agree on them. And what I call a functional government model is, what you do is you emphasize where you agree, and you do that largely in public. And if there's some sort of real disagreement, and if it has to be public, then it's public. But if it doesn't, then you sort of work behind the scenes to figure it out. And the reason you do that isn't because you're trying to go behind closed doors and hide things. It's that when you sort of spar openly in public, it's not good for anyone. It's not good for the taxpayer. It's not good for business community. It's not good for us trying to get investors to come to Wicomico or move to Wicomico or move their business here, or expand their business here. There are so many negatives to that. So what I would ask is that the council would, again, go back to the model that we showed in the liquor bill, that we come together and choose some things that all of us, or majority of the council and the executive, can agree on, and let's move forward on those items, and let's get them done for the people of Wicomico County.
Yeah, and that just leads to one of the last points that I want to make. There have been a lot of talk and council comments about me not being in the council meeting. And they take every opportunity to prove that I am not there. And so I want the public to know a couple of things. Number one, these last couple meetings, there hasn't been a seat in the House. And I would rather a citizen who has taken the time to drive to the GOB to have a seat rather than me sitting in there. And so I'm not going to take up a seat in there. We do watch the council meetings. We're right over in the executive office. And when we need to come over, we come over and we present what we need to present. I am not going to sit in any meeting, and I don't care if I'm the topic of conversation, or Bunky's the topic of conversation, or our department heads are in a topic of conversation, or citizens, where the bad-mouthing and nastiness is allowed. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be a part of it. I am not going to sit up there and listen to the same thing over and over again and then be scolded by 7 part-time people. It's not going to happen, especially because I don't get executive comments at the end. So I have to sit there, and if I do have an answer, or if I do have an explanation, or to say, hey, this is why we did this, or, have you thought about looking at it this way? I don't get that opportunity. The only time I'm given that opportunity is here in this chair at PAC 14 studio, not in the council meeting. If the county council would be willing to give me executive comment at the end, I might sit in on the meeting. I used to sit up at the table with them. It was decided probably amongst both parties to kind of separate from that. And the reason being is the other thing, it is the county council meeting. It is not the executive meeting. I don't have executive meetings except for town halls and things like that. But any citizen that wants to come and talk to me, we work 5 days a week. From 8 to 5. If you want to schedule something, please call and schedule. We're in meetings a lot of the times throughout the day. I would love to sit and talk with you. But the county council meeting is not that time. It is not that time. It is the time for citizens to come and voice concerns like you have stated in the past about policy, about things that are going on in the county, about concerns that they have about maybe something going on in their neighborhood or something like that. It is not the time to sit there and badmouth people in the county. And like you said, and I'm just going to reiterate this, it is not good for the county. It's not good for the council. It's not good for anybody to sit there and listen to that. And I'm sorry, I just cannot be a part of it. If there are things that citizens are concerned about, I am asking you as the executive to contact me. The county council meeting is not the time to sit there and try to figure out a solution with me. It's just not, because I can't respond to anything. I'm not given that opportunity. And I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the council meeting, and it's time where citizens can, give the council their feedback, and it's their First Amendment rights. I would again request if the council is going to have a 3-minute limit, everybody gets the 3-minute limit, not
Right.
just the people that they disagree with, which seems to happen sometimes. But make it a fair across the board. And look, their input is valuable, and I appreciate the fact that they go to council meetings. Having been, in Delmar Council, I mean, and sometimes when you're in my previous experience when I was on the council, sometimes they'll agree with you, sometimes they disagree with it. First Amendment's First Amendment. But I would ask that the comments would have some level of civility, and that because the name calling, that sort of over the top rhetoric and public comments really doesn't serve your point. If you want a policy change, ask for the policy change. If you ask for the policy change with all this negative rhetoric, that's really not helping you get where you want to go. So it's not helpful to anyone. So I think civility is a big thing, and it's not just our area. There's plenty of incivility in government, unfortunately. But it is incredibly important. And I also want to say that you and I were going to the Civic Center. I don't remember what it was. We had something that was there, and it just happened to be during early voting. And we had someone from a tent that's not, in our party say, hey, there's an issue, with the Civic Center. Could you do it? And like, absolutely. And I think the person was kind of surprised, but I just really want to reiterate, like, as we're both, government employees of Wycomico County, we don't just represent the people who voted for you or the people in our political
Right.
party.
Oh, yeah.
We represent everyone in the county. And, there are people who I probably disagree with a wide majority of the time on any sort of thing, politically or otherwise. But if they call me and they say, hey, there's a pothole here, we're going to fill the pothole. Or if there's a policy that needs to be tweaked, we're going to tweak the policy. Or if there's something that they think we've done that isn't 100% correct, or we could do better, or there's an efficiency, please call us. Don't allow don't embrace the tribalism of the political parties. Reach out to us, and we will absolutely respond. Now, maybe there's something you're asking us. Like I was talking recently about geese. Geese are federally protected, so I can put you in contact with someone, at the federal government if you have a question about geese. I'm probably not going to be able to answer it because I have no authority to allow you to hunt geese out of, hunting times. But I'll put you in contact with, Department of Natural Resources, state level, or Fish and Wildlife federal level, or whatever it could be. We will connect you to the right person, but please don't allow your political affiliation or your perceived disagreements with us to stop you from reaching out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last couple things that we are going to hit are just our main points here. Every government needs checks and balances. A councilmatic form of government has no checks and balances. It just doesn't. And so it's important that we keep that in place. The next thing is, and I'm going to say we because we're voters as well, we the people have already voted. We have voted for an executive form of government. If you are not happy with the job that I am doing, there's a chance to do that and have your voice be heard at the ballot box in 26. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But just to kind of wrap things up here, many people have reached out. Many people are not happy with this decision by the council. Some people are not happy with me. I just am going to tell you, we are not allowing it to affect our daily business. We are running the county the same way that we would have ran the county just last week before we heard this news. But I do want to reiterate, and I'm speaking to the council, and I hope that they watch this. I need you to understand that press or that document that was put out, with the new charter and that resolution has affected our employee morale. It's really taken a shot down for it. You have affected the employees. They're scared to death to know what's going to happen. The uncertainty is not good for morale. The other thing is that New York has called and is wondering what the heck is going on, and the uncertainty of government is going to affect our bond rating, which is super important. And I know we've been in a debate about Fruitland primary. Regardless of what happens this year, we are bonding next year, and that is going to affect us. The business owners, coastal realtors, there are people that are ultimately affected. And so I am asking you to set your personalities aside and do the right thing that's by the people. If people don't want me in government or don't want me as the executive anymore, they have that right in 2026. Don't take that right away from people by putting this on the ballot. Even though if it does go, I don't think it's going to pass, but we will see. Is there anything else you want to add to this, Bunk?
No, I think you covered.
Okay. Well, we are going to go ahead and get wrapped up here. I know that we spoke for a long time, and I pre-warned Pack 14 that this might be a longer episode, but there's a lot more that we could say, but I know that you all probably have lives and are looking at that this is probably a 45-minute video at this point in time, but
my suggestion is increase the playback speed to like 1.5.
Yeah, we'll just sound like chipmunks when they do it, right? And we'll
right.
get through it quicker, yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and end with a quote of the day. I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw this quote and it really stuck to me. And it says, "It doesn't matter what's in front of her as long as she knows who's behind her." Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.